right. So none of them had pre-planned questions. That's the best part, right? So none of this is going to be canned answers. They don't know what I'm going to ask. Quite frankly, I don't know what I'm going to ask. So we're sort of going to let this go and be free flowing. But one of the things that I think I've been in the business for over 21 years now. And one of the things that I always felt when I was an agent was there had to be some secret sauce. Like, what's the secret sauce? Somebody was doing something that had the secret sauce for finding clients. And the secret sauce is there's no secret sauce, right? Everyone does this business a little differently. Everyone has different methods for attracting clients. And I think the best part is that it doesn't take one type of personality to do this business. And that was part of the reason that we actually chose and asked for these great agents to come up here is they're all very different. And so we wanted to hear what makes each one of them different and successful and how are they doing it. So we're going to actually start talking about listings. Okay. We're going to break this into listings and we're going to break it into buyers and how we attract different sellers and buyers. So let's talk listings. So if you look back, I'm going to start with you, Mark, because you're right here. If you look back, what is your primary source for listings, listing prospects?
I would say geographic farming and sphere of influence.
Okay. And what does geographic farming look like for you? How many doors? Do you have different farms?
Right now I have one kind of my major farm. It's the kind of the heart and soul. Over the years, I've branched out and tried different zip codes, or even done like beachfront properties in Santa Cruz, got away from that. But it's mainly like right now, the heart of my farm is like Alum Rock, East Foothills, San Jose Country Club area. And then that goes into Berryessa and stretches to Milpitas a little bit. And then it kind of goes down to like the Evergreen border. And depending on like the month or my marketing budget, I might like, or time of year, that's actually kind of a big thing. Like if it's right now, very hardy time to prospect for listings because there's a lot of decision making right now after Super Bowl. I expand my farm to like a bigger circle. And I might do like 10, 12,000 homes. But the heart of it that I make sure that I do every single month is about 4,000 homes. So that's postcards. But then all the other things that I do complement that. So I do open houses in my farm and make sure that I'm doing those at least twice a month. Then I go after expireds in my farm, and then I make sure, just there's a lot of efforts that kind of like complement that. But geographic farming is primarily how I generate listings.
So to stay on that, how often what are you mailing? I know you do a ton of social media. So what are you focusing on in that farm?
Well, social media is kind of new for me. I just started it this year, other than just kind of half-assing it for years. So, and that I can explain that a little later, but um, geographic farming, it's usually I'll have, I could have brought one, but I'll have like my basic flyer that just has happy clients, and it'll just have like little thumbnails of the properties, highlight properties, like the 18 properties I sold the last 12 months or something like that, and their prices. And then on the other side is a giant QR code, and it's all black, and it just says, check your home's value here. And it just makes it in a couple of reviews underneath that. So it's a call to action, and it's where people can hit that, and it goes to a landing page, and it gives me all their contact info. So, if
And
I'm
how often are you sending that out?
at least once a month. And then there's just listed, just solds that go out around every listing, 2, 3, 500 homes, things like that. But that EDDM goes out once a month.
And you use EDDM.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for those who don't know what EDDM is, it's every door direct mailer.
Yes.
Right?
Through the post office.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to hand deliver them or employ my kids because they're free.
And there's a lot of them.
And I'd still do a little bit sometimes, but we'll actually go and drop them on their doorstep. But people more and more these days are kind of sensitive to putting stuff on their doorstep because of like porch pirates. And EDDM is just kind of simple. So I use a service, Copa mailer. A lot of people use them. So so I'll do like that drop should be hitting this week. We just did, we upped it to like 7,000 homes this week. So, and that's our post Super Bowl push right now.
Okay. So out of that, and I'm sorry, I'm just sticking here with Mark, but this is really good, so you're doing it once a month.
Yes,
And-
sometimes I'll double up. Like if like normally in February I might do two because it's such an important month. But it just all kind of depends on marketing budget and that kind of thing.
And out of that, how long have you been doing this?
Um, 2000 is when I started in real estate, was doing mortgages in the 90s.
So, but to this farm, when
To
did
this
you
farm,
start?
yeah, 25 years of farming this farm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, and I mean, there are times that I might let off the gas and I don't get anything out for a month or two. I'm human or I'm just not organized. But I do get residual listing appointments. Like I've had times in my life where we had big things going on where we just pulled off on everything, but we're able to do like 8 or 10 transactions just because of like the accumulated years of momentum,
Yeah,
things like that. Yeah.
that's awesome. Do you track the efficient or effectiveness of the mailers?
Uh,
Like, do you ask when somebody calls for a listing appointment?
Yeah.
Did you find me?
That's always surprising too, because somebody will call me and say that like a come list my house phone call, which I got one of those, this time of year, usually you'll get one of those a week or two of those a week. And I'm always surprised because I'll come in and I'll say, oh yeah, you probably see my name all over the place. I've been working this area. And they're like, no, we just saw your flyer like last week. That was the first time they recognized it. Even though I know that doorstep has been getting flyers from me for 20 years, they they aren't paying attention to real estate or whatever, but they just so happen to decide that they're going to move across the country to be with their kids, and now they're paying. It's a reticular activator. They're actually thinking about real estate and like, no, we never heard of you. Other people though do. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
little bit of both, but that's always a surprising thing to me, is that you can never sit back and think that it's all just working, because you get it out there again. So
How many listings do you generate from that farm a year?
I mean, we've had years where we're 30, 40 listings. Last year, I think it was 16 or 18. Last year
Nice.
was kind of an off year. So, to be honest,
Okay.
but yeah, I consider if we have kind of a baseline, if I can get that out and you're spending a few grand a month and it generates a listing a month, that's kind of the business model. Like, okay, send the mailer out, get a listing, close it. Send the mailer out, get a listing, close it. So spend a few grand, get a $45,000 commission.
Yeah. Pretty good return.
Yeah. But it took years. It took years for it to start being predictable. In fact, you do it for a year. It's very commonplace to expect not to get a transaction from it. It takes a good 18 months to start harvesting.
Got it. All right. Quick question. Yeah.
The area, the farm, is that an area that you researched to tell there's a lot of turnover in this area? So there was a good area.
Yeah, so Eric's asking about researching your farm before you start it. The answer is yes, you should research it and take note of the turnover and take note of dominant players, because you're going to have to compete. Like I wouldn't go start a new farm competing with a guy like Jordan, and there's like 4 or 5 huge agents that go in the places that they farm. You're just going to have to take that into consideration if you're going to start a new farm. If there's a dominant agent, or if Angie's there, people that have been there for a long time, it takes a lot to unseat them or to compete with them. And if you get a listing appointment, they have an advantage when you go to that appointment that you've got to overcome. So take that into account, that's what you're going to be starting. Myself, I did not research it. I just went to where I knew my neighborhood that I grew up in, and I have a big crossover of sphere of influence massively. So I did not do that research. There were some dominant players back throughout the 80s and 90s that just got everything, and I always competed with them, but I didn't have any science behind it back then. But I would say, yes, take that into account. And there are things that you can look up. It's in terms of what you should be looking for, like through the coaching organizations.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. That's awesome.
Nancy,
yes.
there was one Zoom question,
Okay.
and I may mess this up, but what is EDMM?
EDDM. It's every
EDDM.
door direct mailer.
Thank you.
But even like a company like Express Docs, or they will prepare, and you can do it through EDDM, but it's through the post office.
Yeah, I use Express Docs EDM function for some things too.
It's the cheapest way to send mail.
It's a bulk mail service
Yeah.
through the post office.
Okay, Angie, so we're talking specifically listings. How do you prospect for listings?
Well, first of all, anybody that's heard me speak before, you have to take B12 in this business. Okay, so that you can have the energy to get out there. Now, my circumstances were a little bit different. I was very blessed because Bill had established the business so well. I've never met a realtor like him, so professional, so intellectual. He was just amazing. I was like the Susie homemaker, right? With a pretty dress, showing properties, making cookies, the whole works. So after I lost him, I didn't know, I wanted to go home. I wanted to go back to Texas, right by the Gulf of America. Okay. Yep. That's where I'm from, Brownsville, Texas. My son was only 16. Our son was only 16 when we lost him. He said, Mom, we can't go. My friends are all here. I have to graduate. And I did what I was going to do. So the community, I'm not the wealthiest realtor because I give back to the community. They carried me. They carried me. They said, we know Bill, or we knew Bill, and we know you can do it too. So first of all, Nancy, what I wanted to find out, I think, Neil, you all posted the other day, new members, right? Do we have any new members to the board in here? Yay! What's your name, hon? Yes, honey, yes. Okay, first question. Welcome aboard, first of all. Happy to have you here, but where's your name tag? Uh-huh. Always wear that name tag. A lot of people don't have them on. I can't believe that. The name tag's important. Anyway, to get back to it, yes, I farm as well. Gosh, Bill used to farm 10,000 homes. The broker at the time, he says, you got to do it. You got to do it. No, that's too much. Yes, you can have a farm, and mine's basically about 4,500 as well. They're in Blossom Valley. But the best tip I can give you all, get involved with the community. I do so many community events. Go to the schools, see what they have coming up, because that is a big farming thing that I do. I'm going to give you an example real quick. So I'm doing, I guess it's basically my first event for the year. And yes, I'm from Texas. Yes, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. But wait. So my oldest grandson, he's 25. He is actually the handler. Does anybody know what the handler is? For Sourdough Sam. Who knows who Sourdough Sam is? Yes, he's the underneath the jersey, my grandson does have a cowboy shirt on. But this is what I'm gonna tell you.
He's Sourdough Sam's handler.
Yes, handler.
Okay.
Handler. So if you want to get an idea, hon, how to get going, how to meet people, everything, join me in Morgan Hill this coming Saturday. We're going to be there, I think, from 9 to 2 or 9 to 3. We're giving free photos. I give free photos. I want you to meet the photographer. Jody introduced me to the photographer a while back. But we're doing, okay? Jeff Dixon, that's a coach over there, he called me because he saw what I did for Sobrato High School. They called me up. We did photos over there. So then Coach Dixon said, hey, Angie, we have flag football clinic for females, for girls. Si se puede. Yes, we can do it. Woohoo! You bet. So this is sponsored by Sorry, the 40 whiners. Anyway, I'm doing it. But that's what I can say. Come join me. There is enough business for everybody. You can give out your business cards. You can give out anything. I mean, I'm an open book. I like helping people. I want to see everybody make it this year. Make 2025 your best year yet.
Yay. All right, Angie, quick. So the, going back to the question was,
Sorry.
was with, so you farm
Yes,
and,
yes,
and it sounds like you do events in your farm.
yes.
And do you do mailings to your farm?
Only if it's like the end of the year, big calendars,
Okay.
or if I've done a newsletter, yes.
Okay.
But you got to keep up with them if they come back to you.
Right. Events that you do in the community. What kind of events and how many per year do you do? You do the pictures, and how many of those do you do a year?
I do a lot. So I have also, where I do a huge community Easter egg hunt. Bill started this. Okay, so you can imagine how long I've been doing this. So I do a lot at the schools, Sakamoto, Bertha Taylor, the schools that are in my farm area. And then I'm also doing the crab feed for the high school. Go to the schools, ask, what do you have coming up? How can I help? I want to be a sponsor. I want to do something. So at the crab feed, I take 2 big tables, or I purchase tickets, 2 big tables for my top cheerleaders, past clients. I used to call them the $1 Million Club when the first properties were being sold for $1 million, but now it's way past that. But I do all those kind of events, everything that you can imagine. They call me, we're doing it. We do the football, we do the Little League, we do everything. And like I said, I'm an open book. I'll share whatever information you want. Come join me. Come and see. I think, Ron, didn't you do a couple events with me when you were there at the office? Yeah. So, and I know Simon's done events with me too. Janie, the Stager's done events with me. So many of the affiliates, they come and join. And then also, of course, I sponsor at the golf tournament, right, Neil? Yep, I do stuff at the golf tournament for the board, but I'm always doing events. That's how you can stay forever young. Just take that B12 shot, okay?
Awesome. All right. So really good examples, right? We have a lot of Every Door Direct or mailers. We have events. So Jordan, it's your turn. And I want to know, prospecting for listings, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm going to hit this from 2 different perspectives. I'm going to hit this from when I was brand new and didn't have money to spend on marketing, and then I'll touch on what I'm actually doing today, right? So when I was brand new, I was 21 years old, 22 years old, something like that, and I didn't have money to go and spend on marketing, right? What I had was basically the sweat equity that I was willing to put into things at that point. And just like you said early on, Nancy, there's no secret sauce, right? And I think the progression for a lot of agents in the industry is you start working with buyers, and then eventually you get tired of working with buyers and you try to figure out a way to transition into being a listing dominant business, right? And I realized that very quickly. And so my first year in the industry, I think I did 8 deals, my second one, 12 deals, and then my third one, 41 deals. So a lot of people, when I talk about that story, is okay, what happened between year 2 and year 3? And there was no secret sauce. There wasn't anything magical that happened that year, but year 3 was fruitful in regards to all the efforts that I had put in years 1 and 2, right? So I figured that, okay, you're backed by a brokerage, you have that brokerage representation, but anywhere you go, regardless of brokerage, your name is the brand, right? And that's what you want people to remember. Like, I'm Jordan Mott if I'm at Coldwell Banker when I started with Nancy, or I'm Jordan Mott when I'm at Intero now, right? But people need to remember Jordan Mott. And I remember sitting down in Joe Brown's office and talking about farming and dropping flyers, and he told me the only thing that matters on that flyer is that your name is the biggest thing on that flyer, because that's what you want people to remember, right? So every morning, at approximately 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m., I was out dropping flyers on people's doorsteps, and I made it a purpose to make sure that I had 500 flyers dropped every day before I was into the office, right? And I was always the first one in the office too. I thought of every one of those flyers as a lottery ticket where, okay, I don't know when these are going to hit or if they are going to hit, but each one of these flyers is potentially worth 25, 30, 40, $50,000 depending on where they're dropped, right? And regardless of if it materialized into a commission check, it was a win because all of those people had a little bit more familiarity with my name that morning than they did the day before. I will tell you that if you drop flyers at that time of the day, the newspaper truck driver is very creepy, driving very slow down the street. And you realize who has dogs and motion sensors very quickly. So that's what I would do every day. And I would, like at the beginning when I didn't have spot or listings, I would go find an agent in my office and say, hey, can I go and drop 500 flyers with a co-branded flyer about your listing that you just had, updating the neighborhood? And then if we get a listing appointment, we can go on that together, right? Because they're probably not doing it, right? They're not putting in that sweat equity. So again,
Jordan, let me ask you, when you were new and dropping, were you focusing on a farm or particular area, or were you kind of blanketing? What was your kind of geography?
It was more so leveraging whatever open houses I
Nice,
had that
okay.
weekend, or like I said, partnering with other agents who had listings in my office at that time so that there was actually something pertinent that I could put on that flyer, in regards to, hey, this house would just receive 7 offers last weekend, like there's 6 other buyers looking in your neighborhood. So, but there was definitely days that I just pulled a market update of a random neighborhood and would go drop 500 flyers in that neighborhood. So it was just about name recognition for me
Yeah.
at that point. Yeah.
Did, what was the return like? You said you didn't start seeing it really until about year 3.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to Mark's point. Like a lot of people get involved with geographic farming and they expect something to pop overnight. And that's not the way that it works. Like I see a lot of people put efforts into a farm for 6, 9, 12 months, and then they still haven't gotten anything and they decide that it doesn't work. But it takes time for people to become familiar with your name and for you to stay top of mind, right? So the way that I've seen it work best is when it's done every 2 weeks.
I was going to ask you, so frequency, even, so let's say you did an open house or you were doing a co-brand, you were doing that every couple of weeks while that listing was active, or?
Yeah, and if you think
even
if you
pending?
think of the listing approach, like you have a coming soon flyer, you have a just listed flyer, you have a pending flyer, you have a just sold flyer, you have a market update 2 weeks after that. So I mean, that's kind of what I refer to as spot farming, which worked very well. But and I was told when I started, like, find 500 homes, right, that you can focus on and commit to hitting every 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, that's way too small. I can do way more than that. And I think I tried to do a farm of 2,500 at that point in time when I was just starting, and it was too much to be able to hit every 2 weeks. So I had to scale it back, right? And to this day, one of my best farms is like 487 homes right here across the street in Rosemary Gardens. Like I think 2 years ago, we had 13 listings in there.
Wow.
And that's 487 homes. We had four listing signs on the same street at one time. And so those are the easiest listing presentations to go on, right? And then circling back to Mark's point too about EDDM, like right when COVID hit, everybody was, excuse my language, scared as shit, right? Nobody knew what was going to happen. And all I heard was, we're pulling back our marketing efforts. We're pulling back our budget. And to me, that went and said, okay, that's time for me to double down and go
Yeah.
expand when everybody else is pulling back. So that's when I started my big EDDM campaigns, and that's in Willow Glen. And so that's about 18,000 homes that get hit every month with EDDM. And I would say we probably have about 25 to 30,000 flyers that go out a month at this point, but my marketing spend is also somewhere between 25 to $40,000 every month. But I was not in that position when I was 21 years old and straight out
Yeah.
of college, right? And then I think you can supplement that in a geographic farm with other things, right? Like, so we do that mass mailing, and then we do subsets of mailings that are directly around the listings that we have. And then we have a huge ass billboard in downtown Willow Glen. So like there's things that you can do to build on that, and community events are great, whether it's a dumpster day, whether it's e-waste, whether it's something like that. But I think something else to touch on is that we spend so much time, money, and effort on trying to generate business from people that we do not know, when some of the easiest business that we can go and generate is our sphere of influence, right?
Yeah.
Even spending $35,000 a month on marketing, whatever it ends up being, like still to this day, 65% of my business is referral based. And
That's what I was
from-
gonna ask is, so out of that EDDM spend, what does that generate?
I would say last year we probably had somewhere 8 to 12 listings from that. But realistically, anytime I send that out, like all I need is one listing from it to pay for itself. And even if one listing doesn't come from it, I think of it as a win, because all 17,000 of those people are a little more familiar with my name that time than the last time that I sent that flyer.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Wow, I know. Always impressive, Jordan. All right, Marianne.
If you feel overwhelmed by these three, that's why they invited me. So don't worry.
No.
You're gonna feel a lot better. I forgot to actually mention anything about my bio, but I've been in the business for 20 years. Some of you may know my father, Joe Brown, who Jordan was speaking about. Ironically, he gave Jordan that great advice, and I have never taken it. So I don't do a single mailing any farm either.
But
so
that's what I wanted you here for.
Yeah, exactly.
is
She's like,
because
you're gonna just bring the the average down a little. It's okay. I'm just kidding. No, it's good. I'm good. I'm joking. But I started working in the offices when I was in high school. I was a weekend receptionist. I mean, I sold Girl Scout cookies when I was a little girl. Angie knows all those same people I knew. In the offices, I was a receptionist. I was an assistant. I graduated from San Francisco State and got my license. So I've been through a lot of ups and downs in the industry, and I have never had a geographical farm. I'm about 90% by referral, and probably other 10% open houses. And I was born and raised in Willow Glen. My husband's family's been there for 4 generations. So that's where I live. That's where I'm focused. And I'm mainly actually what I'm doing better now than I've ever done is doing events with my sphere of influence. And I'm doing like the pie parties at Thanksgiving. And instead of dropping pies off, I'm hosting like a big party, because I noticed when I was stopping by my clients' houses to drop things off, they all wanted to talk to me. But I was like dropping off 20 things that day, and then I didn't have time. I was like, I can't talk. And I'm like, this is sort of like not the point of stopping to talk, popping by to say hi to somebody. So we have like these great parties and create, I think what Angie, and let me just say, Angie is so amazing. When I was a brand new agent, and I know some of you are not going to believe this, but we used to present our offers in person to the listing agents in their office, and sometimes the sellers. Can you imagine, you guys? And I was so nervous. I was like 5 years old. And Angie made me, oh, you're going to come in and you're going to present to my sellers your offer. And she was so nice and so kind. And she was so sweet. And she walked me through it when I was really nervous. So I really always appreciate that. And I feel like I'm going to make a movement to start presenting in person again to agents. So, yeah. So if you haven't done it, it makes a difference when we all need to work together cohesively. But I joined, my kids are in elementary school now. I'm on the parent board at the school, which is a lot of work and a lot of time, but it has also been, I've generated a lot of business from it, where people are just getting to know me, and and they ask me about real estate all the time, even if they have another realtor, or even if it's about in a different state, or it's just becoming that expert that everybody goes to. They can tell when they're talking to me that I know what I'm talking about. And just from growing up in the area, I do know a lot about the area, a lot about the houses, a lot about the streets, a lot about the schools. So fostering that referral business is really what I'm more about. I should say I haven't ever sent any mailings out. I have, just not consistently, not like they're talking about around my just listings, just solds. When I have a listing, I have a new listing, Willow Glen that went on today. I'll drop, my kids and I will go do neighbor invites for open house on Friday night to all the neighbors. That's great. That's like, I love doing the specific neighbor open house because you get all the neighbors in there. So they don't bother you so much on the weekend when you have buyers coming in. And also they're usually coming in, it's like all these people that live in the neighborhood that might be selling. I mean, they're coming in there on a Friday night to see the house and to kind of meet you and see how your process is. And then if they talk about the house or the neighborhood in a bad way, it's all their neighbors already know about it. So they're not saying it in front of other buyers. But those are just a few of the things. But so I don't have that much to add to the geographical farming, but I love it. I hope to do it one day, really, honestly. Like I think but I would be more specific. I have my whole business plan is to do less number of deals and do more expensive homes. Like, so to keep my price point going up and not doing so many deals. But I mean, but I still do, I do a good number.
So, you're predominantly Sphere, right? 90% of your business comes from Sphere.
Yeah.
And so how many people are in your Sphere?
Oh, well, I went through and I created probably a list of just a core like 75, like I would say A people.
Okay.
Like, and then here's the other thing. I do get business from social media, but I don't necessarily get it because I'm posting about real estate all the time. I try to have a nice balance between real estate and my life, my personal life. Although as my kids have gotten older, I put them on there less and try to just focus on what I'm doing. But I think social media is great. And this is how I tell people I think about it. I think about social media as if I go into Zanotto's grocery store, which by the way, I run into like 8 people every time I go into Zanotto's. So sometimes I'm just like, I could just go to Zanotto's and prospect one day. But Angie knows what I'm talking about. But I think about social media as like I am running into somebody at the grocery store, like it's a touch. And so I always try to be engaging on social media. I comment on people's posts. I say happy birthday. You know what I mean? You engage with and I add all my clients to Instagram and to Facebook because a lot of them, sometimes they're looking at that more than they're looking at their email.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, they're looking at they're looking at Instagram stories. And I had a client who I went to St. Chris with, I went to elementary school with, and she called me. Her and her husband were being transferred to the East Coast. And she was like, well, you always list such pretty houses. That's why I called you. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, because, they are pretty. I mean, I put a lot of effort into making my listings looking good and preparing them and staging them and photographing them really well, because it's also what people are judging me on as a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And so I think there's people that have this idea, like in their heads, they think Marianne, like people will be like, is my house pretty enough for you to sell? Or is it like nice? It's not expensive enough for you to sell, like, because they'll see all the media online. I do a lot of reels. I use Infinite Views like Jordan, and for $200, they'll make a reel for me. I'll add my own music that's trending at the time. So those have been popular. I get like 6,000 hits on those at least.
So put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And because we're going to go back to social media and talk that, but I want to know a little bit more about your database and your spheres. So you had said 90 or so.
Yeah, I don't,
No, you
because
had said
there's
75 or so
like-
A's. Like, what's your total database look like?
well, I don't add all my people I know at like Schallenberger Elementary School right now, which I know like probably a third of the school.
You need to
Like
add.
I don't add them to they're not in my database right now. So I'm just out there working my magic in person.
So if I
know?
were to say, how big is your database? How big's your database?
Like
Ballpark.
100 people. I mean, not that much.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't see you guys. They were like, I didn't know they were gonna. It's really like I had this like epiphany like 2 years ago. I was just like so burnt out from real estate. You guys, I sold like 6 houses the first 90 days of COVID. I just felt like I was selling houses for days, and I really had this I've been doing this for 20 years and I was really burnt out. And I figured, I was like, how am I going to do this for another 20 years? Or do I really want to do this for another 20 years? And I had to kind of go back to like the root of why, like what's exciting about this business. And this is what I'm telling the new agents in my office. This is probably, they're not going to lead with this at the title of this talk right now, but there's so many opinions about what you should be doing. And that wasn't how it was 20 years ago. Like there was no social media, there was no broke agent and BAM media and Inman. I mean, like there was none of that. And so we just like sat in our office and like we did what the guy who was playing solitaire all day told us to do. Like we didn't really know what to do. Like you had to kind of figure it out on your own. But the beauty of that is like you figure out how you do it as your personality and how. And so when I was broke agent and I had no money, I mean, I was in debt, I had no money. I called my best friend who had just graduated from Santa Clara University and I said, hey, I'm going to pay for a cleaning service to come into your house. And then I'm going to cook all this food and I'm going to bring wine. And I need you to call everybody that you just graduated with from Santa Clara. And we're going to have a first time home buyers party at your house, at your townhouse in Hamilton Place. And she was like, okay. And they all, at the time the market had crashed, right? This is like 2008. But they all had jobs. They weren't, they didn't lose their whole retirement portfolio in the stock market. They had jobs. They were all working. None of them had owned a home. And so I brought my lender with me and I got an easel and we had the white, he did the triangle of risk. And, we like talked about FHA loans and like all this kind of stuff. And everybody, and then we ate and we had wine and we like hung out and we had a party. And I sold every single person at that party a house. And some of them I sold 2, 3, 4 houses, their parents' houses when they got divorced. I mean, I must have done like 30 deals just off that party. In fact, one of those, and they're my friends as well. One of them is looking at a $4 million off market house right now in Willow Glen.
That's awesome.
And then he's like, I'll buy that. And then you can sell my $2.5 million house down the street, So, but that was, you guys, that was investment 20 years ago into people and to community. But just don't try to like cut the noise out and just be yourself, because you probably are a realtor because somebody told you had a good personality and you like to talk to people, or you maybe, and like you really do, like you are the thing, like you are the secret sauce. You just have to like get out of your own head and just talk to a lot of people and connect. And right now what I'm really focusing on is taking the community that I build and connecting them.
Yeah.
So connecting the people in my sphere, because that is like the strength of like, that is building real community. And that actually really makes a difference in your business and in your community and your life, and just being happy as a person and being excited to go to work and have clients that like love to work with you. And, it
That's
makes your
awesome.
life a lot better.
Okay. Awesome. So you've heard some really different ideas here. I hope you've been taking notes and getting some good nuggets. And we're going to switch it up because Mary Ann sort of gave us a good segue into your sphere and prospecting inside your sphere. So Mark, I'm going to start with you. And I do want to know how big your sphere is and what does that look like as far as prospecting to your sphere, and what do you get out of that? And do you prospect to your sphere? you
Yeah,
have a
there's times when I'm better at it and times that I'm more organized and systematic about it. And then there's pretty much the rest of the time when it's more kind of intuitive. I'm involved in our school. I'm the MC and director of a the major fundraiser that we do at the school every year. So it's kind of like high profile. And I have a really tight family. A huge tight family, and they pretty much 80% of us live in the same zip code. So there's a lot of constant interaction and presence there, but I'm not wearing my name tag all the time. And I'm not like, shaking them down for business, but I do get a lot of referral business. Since it is a big, so the sphere, I think I have probably 4,000 contacts on my iPhone. There's an A list that's a few hundred that I kind of keep my realm. So I'll say like on a good, when I'm like on my game, I do the Tom Ferry 554. Does everybody know what 554 is? So it's a 5 follow-up. Let's see, 5, I text 5 lead follow-up, 5 sphere, and then 4 new people. So if you do that consistently every day, you're going to have a massive amount that just builds up. So
That's awesome.
so for instance, that'll look like on a good day, I'll sit at my desk, put my feet up, and have my contacts on my computer and have my phone in my hand, and I'll open the Zillow app and I'll start with everybody in the A's and I'll skip 2 or 3, no, realtor. Nope, that's a cousin, or I sold them the house, and I'll pull up their address on Zillow, and I have a cut and paste text message ready to go, and it says, hey, did you see what Zillow says your house is worth? And rates are looking pretty good today. I got a good lender referral. God, life's okay for you. Something like that. It's just a cut and I just type it out and I have it ready and I just paste it. You could do 40, 50 of those in a morning, like in 45 minutes. And then for the rest of the day, your phone's buzzing and you're just talking about whatever. I don't do the old scripts where it's like, hey, this is a business phone call, or, hey,
Yeah.
how's your kid doing? I don't give an F about their kids. But I'll give them something of value to talk about. And hey, look what Zillow says your house is worth. And a lot of times it's so surprising what the conversation starts at. It's like, funny you text, Mark, we're moving. And they probably weren't going to call me. So that's when I'm on my game.
You try to do about 45 of the 554s.
Yeah. So sometimes, the challenge is finding the new prospect. So that's the 4 every day. Well, I just do an open house on the weekend and get 25 visitors, and then I'll average that across the week and I call it good. So that's so I kind of cheat. I cheat on the 4 number, but everybody has a 5 and a 5 that you can go after. There's you can text message if you don't want to call. So that's kind of how I work Sphere. There's a lot of there's social media aspect of it too, and then there's but just being aware. I don't do events. I've kind of shied away from that. I should do events, but I make sure that I'm kind of involved in. Hey, I'm here because there's a lot of realtors that are in my same sphere. They're either relatives or even siblings, almost in-laws and things like that do a lot of business with the same people. So you have to differentiate yourself or just be there a little bit more.
So do you mail or stay in contact with your sphere, or is it more what you're talking about?
My mailers, they won't be as consistent as and this is not how you should do it. You should be consistent and do it every month. I'd say the sphere gets probably 6 to 7 mailers a year. And the good being, the perfect being the enemy of the good. I don't put a lot of thought into it. I probably should, but I don't want to belabor it. I just take and I mail them my same flyers that I mail to my farm.
Got it.
So.
Awesome. All right. Angie, your sphere. So the question is, how many people are in your sphere that are truly your sphere?
That's a hard question because actually my people, they always come to my events. They come to my open houses. Okay. And I want to piggyback real quick. Okay. In reference to Friday evenings. Marianne's absolutely right. I started doing the wine and cheese twilight tours on Friday evenings. Then one of my other sellers that I was doing it at, she says, I'm so happy. All the neighbors are here. It's like a party. She says, for your next one, put out some tables and chairs. Let the whole neighborhood get together and talk and chat. So we do the twilight tours on Fridays. Then this is another tip. I just want to share it so I don't forget, is then we do coffee cart Saturday. If you've never used a coffee cart, I met this young man. He's amazing. I met him in Morgan Hill at another open house. His name is Matthew, and his company is Sippy, SIPHIE or something. Anyway, he has the most amazing personality. So I guarantee you do something like that, the neighbors are going to be talking because it's something different. Yes, my sphere of influence, they all come because they want to have this coffee. They all like Matthew, the whole work.
So how do you invite them? Are you doing a mailer to them for invites? Are you doing are they seeing your stuff on social media? Like, how do you invite your sphere?
They're going to see my signs. They're going to see my balloons. They're going to see everything that's going on, but word of mouth. Okay.
Okay.
My clients. Okay. My friends. There's Jane and John. Janie, you met Jane and John, right? Yeah. He looks like he's ZZ Top. Okay. But they go and they'll tell everybody, hey, Angie has an open house over there. She has a coffee cart. On Sundays, it's going to be Champagne Sunday. You go boom, boom, boom. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then you look to see how many people pulled up disclosures. And I think we were talking earlier not to put a date when the offers are due, because what if it backfires? So you want to wait and see how many people actually pull up the disclosures. But like I said, my sphere is everybody's talking.
Got it.
Everybody's talking. And I'm going to give you a good example the other day. And I didn't know, because I do worry about some of the social media. Is this lead that came in, is it real or not? And I was very leery about it. And of course, my grandson, he screens everything. Anyway, I hadn't heard back from my manager. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and call him. That was the best call I could have made. Because in my farm, I might be the oldest. No, I think there's other ones older. But anyway, this young man from Central Valley said, my mom is 86. My stepdad had a stroke. We're going to have to sell the house. My mom doesn't want to, but it's a big 2-story Ponderosa, 3-car garage. He says, we're going to have to sell it. He says, and before I made this email to you, I checked you out. He says, I saw all these positive ratings on Yelp, everything that he could look me up on. So yeah, that is how I get the people, and it is word of mouth. But
Okay.
yes, I try to go back to basics. And for the new ones, who was saying about the cards? For sale cards, pending cards, open house cards, sold cards. Go back to basics. You don't have to go do a whole bunch. Go walk your farm. Do 500 cards. Make sure you have your name tag. If your office has a t-shirt logo, wear that. And I guarantee people are going to be talking and they're going to be looking. And especially when you're over there at the elementary schools, the parent group, they know who's trying to help our children, who's trying to help our teachers, you know, who's trying to keep the schools open for one. So you need to get out there. And what I have, and yes, there's competitors also, but we have banners that the school paid for and put up. Same thing with the football, the other teams that we have done. Also, we're doing the other event that we have coming up is at Santa Teresa High School, their music marathon. So get out there and go do events, because it's happy stuff. It's happy stuff. And it's going to give you that boost of energy.
That's awesome. All right, Jordan, sphere of influence.
Yeah.
How many
so-
are in it, and how are you communicating with them?
Yeah, 2 things real quick just to add on farming before they slip my mind. One, Mark and I talked a lot about EDDM. Do not disregard the non-owner occupieds, because they're not going to get those EDDM pieces that go out, because that's just every door direct. And I find a lot of times that your non-owner occupieds are less connected to an agent that's in the marketplace than someone who lives in the neighborhood and as their primary residence and gets 10 of those flyers every week.
So do you then have a separate non-owner occupied list that you're sending that stuff to?
Yeah, call KB. He'll get you your labels. But yeah, we have those for every farm that we have, that they get separately sent out to, just regular envelopes. And to Mark, I would disagree with you on one thing. Excuse my language. I don't give a shit if anyone's farming it at all, like, or if there's a dominant presence there. Like, not everybody is meant to work together. Right. And I took a lot of backlash from some people when I started mailing all of Willow Glen, and I've taken business from people in Willow Glen. So wherever you want to go and do business, you can go and do business, and not everyone is meant to work together. So even if there is a dominant presence there already, there's room for you to have a presence as well.
You're hearing it here. Jordan's saying, come and farm Willow Glen if
Yeah,
you
please,
want.
please do. Go for it. Sphere of influence. So when I got into the industry, I was told that I had to put together like an Excel spreadsheet that had emails, phone numbers, a addresses, blah, 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 of everyone that I knew, like past colleagues, coworkers, whoever my mom sent Christmas cards to, right? And like for some reason, I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I don't have a database that still to this point. I have all of our past client records in a database, but that to me is separate from my sphere of influence. They get hit and touched in their own ways. But what I realized was that everybody that was going to be in my sphere of influence that would go in that Excel spreadsheet or wherever you want to put it in your database management or CRM system, which I still don't have a CRM to this day. It's just Excel. Don't overcomplicate it. I realized that everyone that was going to be in there, I was connected with on social media. So I was going to use my social media platforms to stay in front of my quote unquote sphere of influence, right? And people spend way too much time on social media, and it's a soft touch in comparison to getting a junk email campaign or getting something in the mail that they don't want. And they're probably not thinking that they're being spammed when they see that you're selling a house on social media, because it's just top nature to scroll and scroll and scroll. And if you do it consistently, just like anything else in this business, you're going to stay top of mind that way. Right. So like I've had people that I went to high school with that I haven't talked to in 15 years at this point that still reach out and go and say, hey, my mom's thinking about selling their house. Right. That wouldn't happen if I wasn't active on social media. And so it's almost an extended sphere of influence at that point, where if you just put together a list of 100 people, that person probably wasn't going to be in your sphere, but you have this virtual sphere that you can create in today's day and age, right? And there's not a day that goes by that I probably don't post something real estate related, and it's consistent. And at the end of every one of my posts, like, it's who do you know of looking to buy or sell real estate in the Silicon Valley or Bay Area? I'm never too busy for your referrals, right? And that's stuck in people's mind at this point, that like everybody knows that I'm never too busy for their referrals.
That's the most ripped off saying in real estate around here, by the way. Thanks to Jordan.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's been super fruitful for me. I also, just like you talked about, Marianne, like I make sure that I'm connected with all of my clients on social media platforms, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, just because it's free too. Like,
Yeah.
and when I first got into the industry, like, I would spend hours a day on LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn network now is like over 21,000 people, right? And you can get very strategic on who you connect with on LinkedIn. And so like for me at the beginning, it was, okay, I went to Penn State. I'm going to connect with every Penn State alumni who lives in the Silicon Valley and Bay Area. When I exhausted that, I knew the people that were buying houses were those in the tech industry. So I was connecting with people that worked at Apple, connecting with people that worked at Google, right? And there's been a ton of business that's come from that throughout the years. But also I think that like making sure that you're proactive about touching those who are close to you as well. Like we go through and text our whole past client database every quarter. We send them CMAs every quarter with the market update. Anyone who buys our listings, we send them CMAs every quarter because their agents likely aren't staying in touch with them. So we're doing a lot to make sure that we do stay in front of people, because as amazing as we all are, like people forget about you quickly. Like,
Yeah.
And I realized that when I sold a house to someone and they put it on the market a year later, and that was a $50,000 commission check, and I was bent out of shape for an hour thinking about why they didn't use me, but I didn't do anything to stay in touch with them. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my fault, and I was never going to make that mistake again.
That is a great segue to talk more about social media. So I know do you have anything to add? Because you did talk a lot about Sphere
Yeah.
in a good way,
Yeah, know me.
Marianne. But I want to switch gears and talk social media, because I know you are all active and engaged in social media. And so, but is social media, are you able to quantify, like when you talk to a seller lead that comes in, do they say, oh, I saw you on Facebook? Or do you feel like it's more just a name recognition thing? I'll ask you, Marianne.
When people come into like my open house,
Well, no, do you
Or
feel
just
like
in-
you're getting business from social media specific, where somebody?
I have for
You have?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, from people who have already known me,
Okay.
and so I'm 44 years old. And so there's a lot, my sphere of influence, all the people I went to school with are pretty much on Instagram, not so much Facebook as much. I don't put as much emphasis on Facebook. It just kind of my Instagram goes to there. But, and so they're like on there. I mean, they're there. and they are paying attention. I mean, I can see how many people are getting views of I do have like a influencer profile, so I can see like where are they located and their gender and age and all that kind of stuff, or how many views a story gets, you know. Some of my stories stories, like I get like 200 views on it, while a post might only get, 70 or something like that. And
Are
the
you-
reels are getting thousands,
Are
so,
you doing any paid?
I have, but I don't like, I never think, I just get a whole bunch of junk, like leads from like, call me on my WhatsApp or whatever. And I can't even like deal with it. So like, I'm not interested in that. Like but I think it's very like powerful, and I I think social media, you can get too like into it. I think you can like put too much emphasis in trying to do it, where you're trying to be authentic and you're trying to touch people, but you can put like too much eggs in that basket, Like I said, to me, it's like going to the grocery store and running into somebody I know. Hey, how are you doing? Like, oh, congratulations on this, or did you have a fun vacation, et cetera, et cetera. And I try to keep my social media profile something people want to see too. So like when we go on our big road trips to the national parks, I make a highlight of that. Like a lot of people will watch those, they'll pay attention, they'll follow us, and then they're just like, I'm a profile that they like too. I think one of the things I want to say about what Angie was talking about, when I talk about my sphere, because I feel like, well, I don't have like these huge numbers, but what I do have and what I do pay attention to is I have a lot of connectors. If anybody's read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point book, I have people that are connectors. So people that I have really good connectors in my sphere. So they are raving fans of mine, and they are always trying to connect clients to me. And so I think you need to also, I don't know if it's so much about the number of people in your sphere, but like who is in your sphere and how can they help connect you, or who are they're just naturally like that, right? And you need to like really kind of think about how you're supporting them and how you're reaching out to those people and
Right.
how they're seeing you. And I think that is, I think you could have as many names, thousands of names in your, but it's the relationships, right? And it's about how those people see you and how they want. And when I start a transaction with somebody, my buyers for years, I was like, listen, this was before I was married, had kids. I'm like, listen, because we used to go show like, for 6 months, we'd show 75 houses before somebody bought one, right? And I'd be like, well, you are getting in my car and I'm going to give you a piece of my life while we find you a house. Because that's kind of how it felt, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to be in this car and we're going to go through all these houses, and we are going to be like, and that happens when you're a real estate agent. You're like, counselor, marriage counselor, housekeeper. You do it all, right? Wear all the hats. And I'm like, but we're going to make this like transaction. You're going to be so happy at the end of it. We're going to go through this whole process together, this journey. And then you are going to tell everybody that, anybody in your life that needs to buy and sell real estate, you're going to refer them to me. Like that's the social contract we're making for this. Like if I hold, and we are like, you guys, I'll do this in a really like fun way. I'm fun. I'm funny. My clients like me. Like they want to be like around me, and they buy into it. Right. They refer me, and they tell and then now they're like, now they're running departments at Apple, and they'll tell their employees to call me, so it's also been going on for a long time building.
So everybody needs to make a note that if anyone in your database, in your sphere has referred you at any time, right? They are a connector for you, and you need to lean into that.
Also, yeah, anybody you sure, like one of my listing right now, Willow Glen, was referred to me by my friend who I've never sold a house to. I'm just good friends with her. She owns a store in downtown Willow Glen, and I've known her. She was one of my first mom friends at preschool. And when she opened her store, I held a private party there, and I got like custom wine glasses made, and I invited all her friends, all my friends, everybody from school, and we had like a shopping night, and I just made, anyway, well, she refers me to people. She loves me, but she like refers me to people, and I walk in and they just give me the listing. You know what I mean? So it's not even somebody you've done a lot of deals with. Your connectors can be people who are just, raving fans of yours.
That's awesome. All right, I'm jumping down to Mark. And Mark, how many of you follow Mark on social media? I have learned so much, Mark, about the East Bay not the East Bay, the East Side, and more about different businesses through your stuff. And you and I have never even talked about this. I've loved what you're doing. And so do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you got started in it? And I mean, it looks like a large undertaking, not going to lie, but tell us more about what you're doing and how it's impacting your business.
Okay, so I'm new to social media, at least doing it in this way. So I think every agent should be on social media because it is where everybody's at, and it is so easy to have a immediate connection to your whole sphere. Like Jordan said, your whole sphere is there, and basically it'll do all the work for you. It knows your contacts on your phone. It syncs it right away as soon as you create an account. So that's an easy way, and you should be posting regularly about whatever, because that's going to get you business. So over the years, I've gotten business from it, but I haven't really tracked it, but I know it's helped my business. And but I just was starting to think about like, okay, how can I get this bigger? But what the kicker was, 2 years ago, my cousin worked for me. She works in my office. You should follow her. Her name's Jessica Vergano. She's got an awesome page. She left to go on her own, and I was geographic farming, had a team, all that kind of stuff. And it was just right when interest rates are going up, and I was like, okay, go do your own thing. And she said, I'm going to do social media. I'm like, good luck with that. So she started doing these, she's mainly in South County. And I was like, well, that's pretty good. Her like, woo, a couple of her reels were bangers, like 500,000, $1 million. Like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, okay, that's cool. So that kind of opened my eyes, and I had a conversation with her about a year into her thing. And I was like, okay, let's get to the nuts and bolts. You make any money off of this? Okay, you're spending money to do this on social media. And I've had conversations with Jordan over the years, and and we've always been like, well, are they making money? Or is it working? And I've never been able to kind of square that circle. Like, there's a lot of agents doing a lot on social media, and then there's agents like Jordan who's consistent on social media, and he's like the #1 agent in the Valley. And it's like the two don't necessarily always go together. You're not always like good at social media and also killing it, because there's a lot of people that are good at one but not getting business out of it. But there's a couple light bulbs that went off in this conversation I had with my cousin, and she's like, yeah, I'm doing 8 reels a month, and I'm using Infinite Views, which a lot of people work with them. And some of the vendors are like reaching out to me and asking me like, hey, I'll pay you to come like feature my business. And I was like, huh.
Well, describe
Um,
your
okay,
reels that you
so my
created, or
reels,
Jessica created.
so this is how it got to me, like creating these type of reels. I said, I looked at tons of real estate pages over the years, and I'm in Tom Ferry, and there's all these people that get up on stage and they're like, yeah, I get 30 deals from social media every year. And I look at their social media and I'm like, your social media sucks. It's like, your typical, okay, I'm gonna offend everybody in this room. The typical real estate reel that you spend $500 on, that you go and say, hey, this is 123 Banana Street. Check it out, man. It's got 3 bedrooms, and it's right across the street from the park, and it's da 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 da. And it's like, wah, wah. It got 300 views, 900 views. I don't think that's a very good use of your money. I'd rather take that $500 and put it into a postcard into my farm and harvest it. So how are you going to like get banger reels that will, like, this steroid system out there, like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok? If you give them the right formula, it will put your reel on blast. Doesn't matter how many followers you have, it'll put it out there in the millions. So we decided, let's just feature great things about San Jose, like a great restaurant, a great park, a great business, something historical, a great neighborhood, whatever. Let's just try a cemetery. Our cemetery, we did one on the cemetery in my neighborhood. It has 220,000 reels. I mean, 220,000 views. People are into cemeteries. So we just started featuring, and it's
Certain
cool.
people.
Yeah. Well, so where are you getting business out of it? That's the ultimate question. So, so our well, a lot of my clients are dead. Their kids call you to list their house. So, so we decided, let's put it out there. Let's give the algorithm what it wants and see what happens. So we did one on like Mount Hamilton Road and Lick Observatory. Mount Hamilton Road had 600,000 views on Instagram and like 200,000 on TikTok, and they just started taking off. So now, like if you look at your Instagram profile, it'll tell you your dashboard. It'll say how many views you've had this past month, and it'll say something like you've had 2,500 views. Well, we're starting to get it to where it's like you've had 400,000 views in the last 30 days, or you've had 1.5 million, and some of our reels will take off. So the upshot of it is that I found out that we give the algorithm what it wants and give people what they want, which is the neighborhood that they want to buy in, the neighborhood that I sell, or I'm expanding it around San Jose because I don't just sell East Foothills or Alum Rock, but we're starting to feature things like La Villa and the Chris Combo and things like that. But it creates name recognition, your voice, your personality, your everything, so people feel comfortable with you. So what has it made any money? So we're almost 12 months in. We've got 2 transactions from it that are clear transactions. And I think it's helped on 2 or 3 others in the farm because when I go on a listing appointment, people will be like, I love your reels. So I'll be like, wow, okay, that's helping. They're getting my postcards, they're seeing my reels. And whenever I'm telling you, almost on a daily basis, and it's not just in Alum Rock, we go somewhere and I'm ordering food or something and somebody will say, I see your reels, man. Those are awesome. So
are you putting the accelerator on with this, or are you going to slow down? Are you finding that it's the return, the investment in it
Yeah.
and your time is worth
okay,
the what you're getting out?
exactly. So I looked at it like, does this make sense? And so if I'm going to start a new farm and I'm going to go spend $2,000 a month, that's going to be $24,000 for this year. I better get a transaction out of that so I can at least show a profit, because the transaction is going to be, at least 2.5% on a $1.4 million home, blah, 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 do the math. You're going to make a $15,000 profit off of your investment. And that's how I start a new farm or expand a new farm. So I looked at, if I'm going to put money towards social media and I'm going to spend $25,000, $30,000 on this year, which is about what it costs, I better get at least 1 transaction. Right now we're on transaction number 2. So it's been profitable. I look at it like a farm. Just looking at somebody else who's doing it the same, my cousin, she went from 2 transactions the first year to 6 or 7 the second year. No extra spend, no anything. It's just the snowball, like
Yeah.
having a farm. So that's how I look at it. That's the experience that I've been having with it. Just the momentum that we have going into 2025. I'm very excited about the things that we're going to be able to do with it, because there's a lot of different threads that you can take it, the different things you can do with it.
And your Instagram and TikTok.
Instagram, it's we added YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook right now. And then we added LinkedIn and YouTube this year.
No MySpace.
And now no MySpace. Yeah.
I'm going to dominate MySpace. Yeah.
I have a company, Infinite Views, who does a lot. They have a social side and then they have the property marketing side. They offer a social media package. You sign up for a year. We film 1 day a month. We film 8 reels and we put them in the can. They will produce the reels. They give them back to me about a week, 10 days later. And we go through and make edits, very, very few, because they're usually pretty good. And I try not to mess with it. And those 8 reels, so I'm doing 2 reels a week. So it's 8, yeah. So 2 every week go out, and I'm committed for the year. We're getting it subsidized though. That's been the light bulb. Is this year, I think I'll have at least half of it paid for by the people that are asking us to feature their businesses. So it's just autopilot, this thing paying for itself. So
That's awesome. Joey, did you have a question?
they post it for you too. Yeah. Yeah.
No, he
They,
has someone shooting.
they send a videographer. So I'm shooting on Monday, this next Monday, and we have a meeting, and I give them my ideas of the places that I want to go, the businesses I want to feature, and I have to set that up. And sometimes I'll call the businesses ahead of time saying, hey, I'm going to come do an Instagram reel. it's hard when you first start because people are like, freaking realtor, get off the phone, man. But now as you start gaining some momentum, they're like, I just send them a reel and I like, hey, I'd like to do this for your business. They're like, amen. When can you be here? Because they'll see that, you know, like the one we did for La Villa, that's over 100,000. Antipasto's 250,000. We did one. I mean, just examples. We did one on a steak at the Drying Shed, which is a hole in the wall in East San Jose. That one has 300,000 views on Instagram, 150 on TikTok, and it changed their business. So this is the whole aspect of it. It's opened up all these things for me where I could go to in Pizza Maria on McKee Road in Toyon. 250,000 reels. I went into their a week later and I said, have you guys noticed any new business? And they're like, we get 3 to 5 new customers a day because of your reel. And they didn't pay $1 for it. And the Drying Shed says that the reel that we did for them was the biggest piece of advertising they've ever had, and no spending money or not. And to the point where we go in there maybe once a week, sometimes twice. They have good martinis. But they have people that they're turning away. And so it's so the light bulbs it's establishing relationships in the community. The business owners are appreciative, and it's creating all these new avenues of business. We're creating some reels that are like a highlight reel of all the businesses that we've supported and what it did for their business, so that's something we post on our social media. And then when we go on listing appointments, we just as soon as I get off the phone, I'll send them a reel about their neighborhood. A lot of times they've seen it, but it's just like you've poisoned the well for any competition that you may have. So it's created all these things. So anyways, I didn't mean to go on too long about that, but
No,
that's
this is great.
been the experience so far.
Jordan.
I just want to add something, Mark. You're doing a fantastic job with all that, but for those who don't have $2,000, $3,000 a month,
Good
like
point.
to spend on social media, like it is so simple.
Yes.
You have so much content in this industry, and it only takes a matter of 30 seconds to put something across all platforms, right? Do not overcomplicate it. Like,
Totally agree.
when I was brand new, like I was posting the open houses that I was doing, right? And I remember being like 90 days in and hadn't sold a house, and people were commenting on my post like, oh, you're absolutely crushing it. And I wanted to respond, yeah, but I'm damn broke.
Yeah.
But like the perception that you can create amongst people on social media is done through that consistency, right? And all
Yep.
you have to do like is pull up car forms and take a picture of the RPA and say you're writing a contract, or go take a picture at a house that's vacant and say you're showing homes to buyers. Even if you don't have buyers, like you can there's not a limit of content that you can put out there, and it doesn't need to be overcomplicated.
Yep.
And it doesn't need to be expensive.
I totally agree with that, because I don't advocate to go out and sign a contract with a videographer or company and spending the money. I'm doing that because I have the budget to do it now, and it's another pillar of my business, along with open houses and everything else. And I've decided I've made a business proposition out of it. But Brianna, right over here, you should follow her. You do all your own stuff, don't you? I called her when I decided to do it and asked her about it. And you should talk to her too, because she has an awesome page and she gets tons of views, and she has like 30 something, 40, 50,000 followers, something like that. Anyways, I got a lot of ideas from her. The apps, as soon as you make 2 or 3 reels, you start getting good at it. And don't be afraid to put out a crappy app. I mean, a reel. Don't be afraid of that. Just full send it. I mean, remember a couple weeks ago or a month ago when the pier in Santa Cruz broke off, and I happened to be driving up Santa Cruz right then and saw it. And so I took a video of it and posted it, put it to like the Rolling Stones. It had like 250,000 views.
Wow.
But, and it was because, and the app made it does everything for you. So don't be afraid to try it. You don't need money to do it, but be consistent. That's the key. Jordan said it perfectly. And those apps are really easy to use. So.
All right, Marianne.
Also, on social media, you have to also realize how much content you already have. One of like my best reels or this year was just me. I went to a conference where there was a social media expert, and it was about talking face in the camera, your face. Like a lot of agents don't want to be on camera. Your voice and your face bothers you, but it's actually like making that eye contact with your viewer. Like this is it's psychologically really powerful. So I made a couple reels and I thought about who my sphere was on my social media. And one of the ones did was why you shouldn't, like why you should check and make sure your homes are in trusts, not have wills or have how you hold title, and not for my clients, but for their parents and their grandparents, because that's come up in my sphere of influence where somebody passed away and their house wasn't in a trust. I had somebody close to me that they had made a trust, but the attorney had never recorded it. So it was a topic that was really, I like walked my kids to school the next morning and like 4 people came up to me to talk to me about it and to like ask me about it. And then the other one I did was why you should never pay $2 million for a house in San Jose, which is because you're going to pay the luxury tax, right? You should pay 1,999. But like a lot of people don't understand that. And those are all things that made me seem like, I mean, well, I am, but like I know what I'm talking about. Like I'm an expert in this law that was passed during COVID that added this tax. And by the way, Santa Clara County Association of Realtors held a press conference last year asking where all that money is that they're taxing our clients on and what they're doing with it. And so these are all things like, but you have a lot of knowledge that you can just pick up the camera and look at it and you can put a filter on it, who cares? And if you throw, and then also with the reels, you gotta like picking trendy music is very important to the algorithm.
All right, I'm going to switch gears here. We're getting down to the wire, but we haven't heard about attracting buyer clients, right? And so you can sell a listing, but the reality is we still need to continue to represent buyers. So how are you? And I'm going to start. I'll start with Angie. Angie, how are you? And are you? I mean, let's be honest. Some of you may say, you know, I'm not doing buyers or I'm kicking buyers to somebody else.
The only time I'll work with a buyer, honestly, is if they're referred to me, okay, basically by a past client. I don't have the time. I don't want the time. I want to go golf. You know, I don't want to go showing buyers, but they have to be good buyers. And like I said, referred and have the money. And so I really don't do a lot of buyers.
Okay.
Only if they're referred to me. But I just wanted to ask Eric one question. So when they're talking about, couldn't your business as well do these videos and everything? Because aren't you going in that direction? By the way, Eric is an amazing photographer. If you look at my listings and you see what he's done with the videos, everything, he's amazing. And I'm going to say it just real quick. The way I came across Eric was here at the foundation. I saw how big his heart was and what he was doing. I think it might have started with a pumpkin. Oh, right, over there. And I just saw what he was doing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to look him up. And I'm using him. And he is amazing. So I'm hoping that that's what you're going to be doing. So you and I can talk a little bit more. But yeah, I don't do a whole lot of buyers.
All right, Mark.
Buyers. So up until a year and a half ago, I had a couple buyers agents on the team. Now it's just my daughter. And we would lead generate buyers to open houses. That's a major, and pick up buyers at open houses, work our sphere of influence. Me personally, as a team lead, I wasn't interested in growing my business through buyers because it's hard to, and especially if you're a newer agent, it's hard to build a business based on buyers. They're so unpredictable, so time intensive, and you can't scale it very well. So my view on buyers right now, exactly what Angie just said, if it's a past client, a referral, or buyers that we pick up at an open house, and it's quick turnaround. And with the new rules, I do like all the new rules, by the way. I think it makes it easier to close and to tie people down. But so my view on buyers right now is we're picking up an open house and taking referrals. Going forward, adding a few more buyers agents back onto the team as we grow again.
All right,
So.
Jordan, how are you attracting and prospecting for buyers?
I mean, the majority of our business is listing based these days. But I do think that there is a high importance on working with buyers as well. Just especially if you're newer in the industry, because those buyers, if you represent them correctly, turn into listings in the future when those people go and sell their houses. And you can leverage those listings. Like we said, listings make babies, if they're farmed correctly. Mark makes babies too, obviously. Um, but um, I would say that with the buyers that we do work with, the majority of them are referrals from past clients that we've helped as well. Open houses are a big source. But that's mainly it.
All right, Mary Ann.
I agree. I mean, it's funny because so much of my business is rooted in all those first time home buyers that I worked with in my 20s when all the older agents didn't like, they kind of were just like, thought the 20-year-olds were a joke, you know, they were like, oh, these fandangled kids want to text and all this stuff. So I had a great, I mean, I had a, like, they all are great. But again, yeah, I like my favorite buyers are the ones who have to sell too, like a buy and sell together is really what I'm going for, or a certain price point. I've also become very focused. I should say just real quick, throughout the 20 years I've been in Buffini, Lorna Hines, and I just did ninja training, ninja selling last year. So those are all, no matter what you're doing, like keep like learning, keep going and listening to people and getting inspired. And I love all those training facility, you know, training people. But it's, yeah, you just want to, with the buyers, I just want to, I want to focus on price points and locations, you know, and so I just won't necessarily work with anybody that comes in that needs, I mean, I'll be happy to refer them, but yeah, it's a specific person, also somebody who's serious, you know, no look, like I tell people, like, I'm here, if you want to buy a house, I'm here to sell you a house. I'm not here to like mess around. Like, I'm here, if you tell me you want to find a house, like, I'm going to find it off market, on market, I'll go dig it up. Like, it will happen, but I don't want to waste my time with people who are not serious. But I can judge that pretty quick now.
Got it. All right. So are there any questions? Any questions from the crowd? Yes.
I have this really beautiful agent named Marianne Brown D'Antonio on my team. And it's just me and a transaction coordinator. I don't have anybody on my team. I probably need an assistant. If I was getting an assistant is really what I need, but that's a lot of things to like figure out for me, and I'm working on it, but I don't have any other people on my team.
Burden.
I have one buyer's agent, one full-time assistant, and my transaction coordinator. I think that when the right time is to be decided by that individual. Like I would tell you, I did 63 deals in an individual year with no buyer's agent, no full-time assistant, and only a transaction coordinator. But that's probably not going to be right for the majority of people.
One of the things that I'm very good at is the client control and making a transaction move quickly too. So, you know, those are the things you need to, you can work with a lot of people and do a lot of deals. If you have a system and you have client control, you're in control of the situation and they're not running the show. So also it might just, if you need more time, then maybe you need an assistant.
Angie.
Sorry. I want to go back to one thing that was said earlier. Okay. Well, for one, I do have a beautiful licensed assistant. I have to, because I'm not going to do all that paperwork. And so I do have that. And then I do have 2 other realtors in the office that help with the open houses. And they're amazing. They already know how I work. So that part is really, really good. But one of the things I've told Pamela, if you've met her, you'll see she's very, very sweet, very, very nice. When you're talking to your clients, don't say, I'm going to go buy and I'm going to go do an AVID. For crying out loud, most of your clients don't know what the AVID is. So I suggest make a list, okay, of anything that you're going to be abbreviating. Give them that list and that it'll say Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure. Don't say COE. even though we know it's close of escrow, but still put it on that list, close of escrow. Any of these abbreviations that
I
we had
remember not
earlier.
knowing what TFT meant, like as a new agent, and I'm like, went months and months not knowing what because I was embarrassed to ask.
Exactly.
All right, Mark, your team, what does it look like?
Okay, team. What Jordan said, I'd use him as the kind of like pinnacle example where so build your listing business first. If you're new in the business, get whatever business you can. Do open houses all the time, work with buyers, work with whoever. But as you go through each year, build your listing business and you get to if he can do 63, 100 transactions, whatever he does per year without a buyer's agent, that's what people are capable of. I've seen many people start teams around them that are just kind of like hamster wheeling it. They're just creating a whole bunch of, and it's money in, money out. They're not super profitable. I wouldn't look to build a team until you can't handle all the open houses that you've created through your listing prospecting. Once you have that, you can have buyer's agents or referral agents or friends in the office that'll host for you that will give you a referral fee. So that's my answer to that.
Awesome.
Build the listing side,
All right.
listing side first.
One last question. No last questions. Okay.